Hello, scholars. I hope that you are having a great start to your day. I hope that you're getting used to this online learning. I know we're all trying to get used to it, so I know that it's new and it might be confusing, but I think that we're going to get there. I think we're doing a really good job, and so are you. You're working hard, and we're super proud of you, so keep up the good work, okay? And if you have any questions or concerns, make sure that you reach out to your teacher, okay? We're here to help you, okay? All right, so for today's lesson, I wanted to go ahead and review what we've learned so far first, okay, because it'll tie into our lesson today. So far we've learned about the blacksmith and how essential his tools were to the blacksmith trade. We've learned some new vocabulary, right? And then you also went on a little scavenger hunt around your house and you looked for things that were maybe made out of metal, okay? Or maybe you found some things or thought of some things that are essential and you had to draw those things on a piece of paper, right? And that was your assignment. So hopefully you did those, okay? And then in lesson 2, we read a story about the little gray pony and how his owner was looking for coal, and he was looking for coal so his pony can have a shoe, okay? Because if you remember in the story, his owner noticed that the pony didn't have a shoe. And so we realized that it is important that a horse has a horseshoe because it covers the horse's foot, right? It protects the horse's foot. So it's super important that he was able to find coal. And did he find the coal? He did find the coal, and he found the coal from a miner, right? And then the blacksmith was able to make the shoe for the little gray pony. So today we're going to read another read aloud, and it's called The Merry Wives, okay? That was a word from yesterday we learned, merry. Do you remember what it means? The word merry? I'll give you a minute to think about that, okay? Or a little bit less than a minute, but I'll give you a few seconds to think about what the word merry might mean. All right, so if you said happy or cheerful, you are correct. So great job. Yeah, so if you're merry, that means that you're happy and you're cheerful, okay? So this story is called The Merry Wives, okay? So have you ever heard of the words husband and wife? Okay, a husband is a man and the wife is the woman. And you might be wondering, what does it mean if a man and a woman were husband and wife? And that just means that the two are married. Okay, they are married. In this story, we're going to read today, the husbands are tradespeople. Okay, you're going to hear about the tailor, you're going to learn about the carpenter, and then you're going to learn about the blacksmith. Okay, a tailor is a person who makes fitted clothes, okay, to fit their customers. So they make clothes that are able to fit all of their customers. And a carpenter, which you should know about because that should be familiar to you, makes and repairs wooden objects. And then a blacksmith, which should also be familiar to you, is a person who works and makes things with iron, okay? And we learned about that yesterday in the lesson before that too. So in this story that we're going to read today, the wives play tricks on their husbands, okay? So as we read, I want you to listen for which husband acts the silliest, okay? So which husband acts the silliest, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to start our story for today. And here we go. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you so you can see the pictures on your screen. All righty, so here we go. All right. Mary, Terry, and Carrie were best friends, but they argued constantly about every little thing. They argued over which were the fanciest hats at the hat maker shop, the tastiest rolls in the baker's shop, and the finest shoes at the cobbler's shop. Now, when it says cobbler's shop, that means there are cobblers. And if you don't know what a cobbler is, it means that that cobbler is a person who fixes shoes, okay? They argued so much and so often that one day they ran out of things to argue about. They sat on Mary's front porch with their heads in their hands. Then Carrie thought of something. "Have I told you how silly my husband is?" she asked. The other two women looked up. "No," said Mary, "but he can't be as silly as mine is." "Oh, yes, he can," said Carrie. He's surely sillier. No, mine is the silliest, said Terry. The three women smiled at each other. They had found something new to argue about. Let's have a contest, said Mary. Whoever can show that her husband is indeed the silliest must throw a tea party for the other two. It's a bet, Carrie and Terry agreed. If you don't know what a bet is so if you make a bet with someone, you both predict something different will happen, and then you see who is right at the end. Whatever the outcome is, you see which person is right, okay? It's a bet, Carrie and Terry agreed. The three women, smiling, went home to make their plans. Each was sure she would win the contest. That evening, when Mary's husband, who was a tailor, came in for his supper, he found Mary hard at work at her loom. And when it says at her loom, okay, a loomer is a person who makes fabric by weaving yarn and thread. Okay, so you're weaving in and out with yarn and thread. Okay? All right, so our next picture, really quickly. There we go, sorry. Okay, he stood watching her for a moment, then said, Mary, honey, why are you weaving when you have no thread on your loom? Mary took her foot off the threadle. What? She said, pretending to be shocked. You call yourself a tailor, but you cannot see this magnificent thread I am weaving with? Your customers will be overjoyed when they see the beautiful suit you make with this cloth. Every man in town will want one. When you hear the word overjoyed, that means really happy, okay? The tailor's eyes opened wide. You must start sewing right away with this linen cloth, said Mary. She pretended to pick up a piece of cloth and handed it to him. You must stay up all night making your new suit, and tomorrow you must wear it. Her husband reached out. He couldn't see or feel the cloth that Mary handed him, but his wife was so much smarter than he was. Surely she knew best. He got to work right away, cutting and sewing the pieces of cloth that he couldn't see or feel into a suit that he couldn't see or feel either. Meanwhile, Terry's husband, who was a carpenter, came in for his evening supper. Terry turned to look at him. She pretended to be horrified. Do you know what horrified means? Horrified means like you're unpleasantly surprised, okay? Oh, my dear, she said, you are changing before my eyes. Your beard is disappearing and your face becoming more round. Why, it looks as if you're becoming a boy again. Until that moment, her husband had felt just the same as always, but his wife was so smart. If she thought he was getting younger, surely she knew best. He felt his chin. Yes, he said, now that you mention it, my skin is smoother than before, and my muscles are becoming weaker. Terry pretended to even be more horrified. You are becoming younger so quickly that I fear you will be a tiny infant by morning. Quickly, while you can still swing a hammer, build a cradle that will be just the right size for you to sleep in. Surely you will not be able to sleep in the large bed without fear of falling on the floor. A cradle will be much easier. The carpenter was confused, but he obeyed. He worked long into the night, building the cradle, and then crawled into it and fell asleep, exhausted. Do you think he's really becoming younger? Do you think he's really turning into an infant? We shall see. The next morning, Terry shook him with alarm. Wake up, dear, wake up. When the carpenter awoke, Terry said, a baby wearing a man's clothes. This will never do. I will put your cradle in the wagon. You must crawl out to the wagon into the cradle, and we will go to the tailor to be fitted for a baby's gown. Carrie woke her husband, who was a blacksmith. Quite suddenly, my dear, hurry quickly. The carpenter needs help getting to town right away. You must run to his house as fast as you can. Do not even change clothes, just run. The blacksmith jumped out of bed. Okay, he said. He was about to run out the door when Carrie stopped him. No, wait. You cannot run fast enough as a human. You must be a horse. Take those horseshoes and put them on your hands and feet. Then gallop to the carpenter's house. It is the only way you can make it there in time. So if you don't know what gallop means to run, okay? It's like you're striding, you're running like a horse gallops, okay? Her husband didn't think galloping like a horse was such a good idea, but his wife was so smart. Surely she knew best. So, still wearing his nightshirt and cap, he got down on his hands and knees and put the horseshoe in place. There, now giddy up, she said. Her husband took off, galloping as fast as he could. He wasn't very good at galloping, and he never felt rather awkward. The horseshoes kept falling off, and he had to keep stopping and putting them back on. But he heard his wife calling, "You're running like the wind. I'm so proud of you." That made her husband gallop faster. When he reached the carpenter's house, Terry met him. "I need you to pull our wagon to the tailor's as fast as you can, but please don't say anything to my poor husband, who is sleeping in the back." Meanwhile, in town, Mary's husband, the tailor, had fallen asleep on top of his work the night before. Mary woke him up. "Oh, my dear, the suit is beautiful and finished, not a moment too soon. You must put on your suit and open your shop. Soon a crowd will be there to order suits as fine as yours. Now run, or you will be late." Mary helped him undress and put on his new suit, which of course was nothing but air. "Now go, you must run," said Mary, pushing him out the door. The poor man was wearing nothing but his underwear, but he set off running so as not to be late to open his shop. The carpenter lay quietly, but uncomfortably, in his cradle as the wagon entered the town. Suddenly he heard someone shout, "Look, over there!" Soon a whole crowd of townspeople neared the wagon and were pointing and laughing at the blacksmith, who had been galloping along for hours on all fours like a horse to pull the wagon. Why do you think the blacksmith is pulling the wagon on all fours? And what is he wearing on his hands and his knees? You can look at it here. Okay, what is he wearing? What are those called? Then the laughter got louder. "Look, over there!" Someone shouted and pointed to the tailor's shop across the street. The crowd laughed, and they watched the tailor run out of his shop wearing nothing but his underwear. The laughter got louder and louder until at last the carpenter in the back of the wagon in the cradle couldn't stand it anymore. He sat up to demand an explanation. Do you know what demand is? Demand means that you insist on an answer. You insist, you want that answer. Right now, you're demanding it. That's what demand means. He sat up to demand an explanation, but all he could say was, "Goo, goo, ga, ga," like a baby. The crowd of people looked at him sitting up in the cradle, and their jaws dropped. Then the carpenter saw the tailor and the blacksmith, and he burst out laughing. Then the carpenter realized that people were laughing at him too. He smiled a weak smile and blushed. Goo, goo," he mumbled. The whole town laughed together, but none as loud as Mary, Terry, and Carrie. The merry wives spent weeks arguing about who had won the contest. At last, they agreed to meet at the best tavern in town to celebrate their successful pranks. Unfortunately, they could never agree which tavern in town was the best. So when you hear the word prank, that means like a trick. You're playing a trick on someone. Okay, so that was our read aloud. Okay, the Merry Wives. So we are going to do our think, pair, share that we've been doing at the end of our video. So you're going to go ahead and find someone around you. And if nobody is around you, you can think of in your head too, and you can think about it and share it with yourself. And you're going to answer this question in your head or to somebody if somebody is there with you, okay? So here's my question. Did the husbands know they looked silly when they got into town? And how did they know? So did the husbands know they looked silly when they got into town? And how did they know? Okay, so you can go ahead and share that with somebody or share or think about it in your head, okay? Your assignment for your assessment for this lesson is you are going to draw a picture of which husband you thought was the silliest, okay? You're going to draw a picture of which husband you thought was the silliest. Was it the tailor? Was it the blacksmith? Was it the carpenter? Okay, so you're going to remember the story, and you can play it back if you need to. You can rewind the video back and get some ideas if you need help, okay? So you're going to draw a picture that shows you why you thought they were the silliest, and send your picture to your homeroom teacher, okay? So you're going to draw a picture of which husband you thought was the silliest and why you thought he was the silliest. What happened in the story, okay? So why was the blacksmith silly? Why was the tailor silly? So which one you think is the silliest? You're going to draw a picture, and your parents are going to take a picture of you with your picture, and you're going to send it to your homeroom teacher. Okay, that's all for today. I will see you next lesson. Have a great rest of your day, and I hope that you enjoy your day. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.